Hey everybody, David Shapiro here with a video about GPT-3, fine-tuning, and generating synthetic datasets. You can find me on GitHub, and it's literally just Dave Shap. That's me. You can find my picture. So GPT-3 and fine-tuning are super popular right now, and I have gotten really good at creating synthetic datasets. What do I mean by a synthetic dataset? So in data science or machine learning, a synthetic data set is data that is artificially created. It's data that you create using other machines or programming. And so the ultimate result, let me just kind of show you what I've recently created. So 2 weeks ago, I put all of my fine-tuned data together in one repository. I've got a compassionate chatbot. Here's the data right here. It's ready to go. You can put it, you can grab it and fine tune your own chatbot. I've got some core objective functions, which are really big, but it's basically my core objective functions are how to create a benevolent AGI. And then lastly, a question generator. So question generator is you give it a topic and it asks relevant questions about it. So I've got these three very different cases about synthetic dataset and fine-tuning GPT-3. I'm not going to spend any time kind of showing you what those... actually, no. I take that back. Playground. So let me show you how these actually behave. So I'm going to scroll down here and I will grab... fine-tune, that's Curie, that's Eve, okay. User, so let's say, hey Eve, I'm sad. And then it'll go from there. It'll probably fail, but I'll keep talking while it's loading. So anyways, this fine-tuned model took only 200 samples, and I've got a chatbot that is pretty powerful. I created this idea, there you go. So it's just creating this whole conversation. I forgot to add the stop sequence so that it can, so that it will not keep talking. Okay, so the stop sequence will be user and Eve. So that means it'll stop. So let's see what Eve says. User, I'm sad. I'm sorry to hear that. What's wrong? User, my cat died. Eve. How did she die? Okay, so you see where this this chatbot uses a technique called compassionate listening. Okay, great. So how did I come up with this? Well, first we need to rewind, and I need to tell you about synthetic data sets. All right, so creating synthetic data sets is difficult, but it might be easier than actually going and getting real data from the real world or curating a data set by hand. So here is an example of where I started. This was the first synthetic data set that I made. You can go explore all of this. It's the Nalka question generator. So I started with a whole bunch of stuff that I pulled from all over the internet. These are all publicly available data sets. I found most of them either on Kaggle or Google datasets. Just search for NLP data sets and you'll get stuff like this, where it's like, here's a news article. That's great. Here's an entertainment article. Again, great. So this is all BBC News. This is all stuff that's pulled from Reddit. It's way too big. There's also plenty of scripts to pull data from Reddit. There's medical stuff, movie lines. This is the Cornell movie database, Stack Exchange. So basically, you start with some raw data, whether that comes from stuff that you scrape from the internet yourself or Gutenberg. Gutenberg is another great place to get text data. So then what I did was I wrote a few scripts to kind of pull that and massage it into what I call contexts. So a context is like some fuel. It's some food for thought. It's just a basic text file. Scroll all the way down. It goes way down. Okay, well, it's not going to show me anything other than the dialogue. That's fine. So the point being here is that you start with some raw material. And you can, I will show you how to generate raw material in the future, later in the video, but this is where I started. So I'm just kind of walking you through the story. So what I did then was once you get some context, this folder has like 50,000 contexts in it to choose from. Again, feel free to use it yourself. Then you write some GPT-3 prompts. So you say, let's see, write a list of the most important and salient questions an observer would ask about the following passage. It took a lot of tweaking to get this prompt right. So let me grab this prompt. We'll go back over to the GPT-3 playground, and we'll switch back over to Text DaVinci. Important observer questions. And so let's then also go back to grab one of these contexts. So we'll just grab a random dialogue. That's not quite long enough. Usually does better if there's a little bit more information. So just click around until I find a longer. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so we'll grab this. This is a context. And because I used medical text, Reddit posts, all kinds of stuff in creating this synthetic data, you can see this is what you're seeing right here is you just automate this. You put in a whole bunch of stuff. You ask GPT-3 to generate a list of questions, and then you record that output. So let's see what it says. And these are all default settings too. So it'll just say, okay, what is the dynamic between the characters? What is the settings of the passage? What is the tone of the passage? Great. So it has intuited that what we're seeing is like dialogue happening between individuals. If we run this again with a higher temperature, it might ask questions about the characters. So let's turn the temperature up. There you go. So you see it has asked like, what is their relationship? And then, so if you do this again, and let's just be like, well, no, I'm not going to do that. You can play with it yourself. These prompts are available online for free. So you run a few hundred or a few thousand different contexts, and you generate the questions, and you store those questions. So we're already most of the way done with this first data set, or this first method. Sorry, let me mute my phone. I did not realize it was not muted. Okay, no more distractions. Okay, so once you get a whole bunch of questions and a whole bunch of contexts, so here's the folder, I accumulated all the contexts, and then I accumulated a bunch of questions. So you can see here, like it generated questions, I cleaned them up, and so what you end up with is a pair of contexts, which is a context is just a situation, it can be a Reddit post, oh, here we go, medical questions, what is the patient's diagnosis, what is the anesthesia used for. So this, basically the whole point of this was I wanted to create a curious model. So a curious model, increase understanding, that is core objective function number 3. Curiosity is going to be an imperative quality so that we can have benevolent artificial general intelligence. And so the ability to have a model that will just automatically ask questions, that was the purpose of this. So we've got context, so scraping together context, that's the input. That was a big chunk, so we got context and questions, right? And then I started working on summaries. I didn't really do that. That's fine. Ultimately, though, this was the result. And I know it's huge and super confusing, so we will just say like, okay, so here's a prompt, which was dialogue, and then I end it with questions. So you need a demarc, and then I just copied those questions. So you end up with a pair, and let me actually copy this so I can show you a little bit better what it would look like to a person. Okay, so let's clean this up just a little bit, and I will zoom in. Bear with me. There we go. Okay, so let's remove, let's find that, find what, // replace with a regular new line. There we go. Okay, so then we say this is what the input is going to look like. And then, so I'm just reverse engineering what all my data prep scripts did, because when you fine tune, it needs to be in a particular It needs to be in a particular format. And so the input is going to be this bit here. And what I always recommend doing is you append at the very end kind of the instructions, and this will train the model that whatever came before it, whether it's a medical text or a legal text or a Reddit post, this says, okay, time to ask questions. And so then this is the output. This is what I trained it to output. Because I was using a more primitive GPT-3 model when I did this, originally I had another cleanup script that removed anything that didn't have a question mark at the end of it. And so the ultimate result is now I've got a fine-tuned model that is an expert at asking questions for all kinds of things. So there you have it. There's step one, or experiment one. All the data prep scripts are in here. You can take a look at those. There's also a few scripts out here, like format the training questions, generate the questions. You can look at the prompts that I wrote for asking questions, like predicting the future and whatever. But really, this one is what are the most important and salient questions. This wording turned out to be the best because it allowed GPT-3 to be flexible. It told GPT-3, okay, be a smart person and ask probing questions about this. That term, probing questions, that can also be a really good prompt. So yeah. Okay, so that was synthetic data 1. Come check out this repo if you want to. The second one is going to be my core objective functions. So I'll show you, let's see. I started the same way with, actually no, let me go to experiment 1. So I copy pasted those contexts and I created a series of prompts, and you can see this repo is a little bit simpler. Again, this is publicly available. You can come take a look at it yourself. But I had prompts that were a little bit different. So these are few shot prompts. And what they did was discuss suffering in the following contexts. So I gave it a context and then suffering, context, suffering, context, suffering. And so then I would just replace the context with one from the internet, from a data set, and then I would ask GPT-3 to produce some dialogue about the suffering. And then the ultimate result was something like this, where it says this passage indicates that the person has suffered from isolation and feeling trapped. So again, the goal here was to give AGI the ability to understand human suffering. Because if your AGI, if your machine learning model has an intrinsic understanding of suffering, well, it can avoid suffering. So that was the point of that experiment. But again, it followed the same process where you start with some raw data. So step 1, get some raw data. Step 2, get a prompt. And step 3 is record all of the output. So then I did the same for these. Core objective function 2 is about understanding. So increase understanding means that it wants to teach people, it wants to ask questions, that sort of thing. And all those prompts are going to be, so here's some of the prompts, here's some other prompts, and so there, so on and so forth. Now I started working, I started working on downloading data directly from Reddit, so that way I could just say, okay, let me go to a Reddit, download some contexts from there. That I developed in future experiments. So let's see, I've got even more here, download Reddit posts. Yeah, so here you go. Reddit is a great source. Some people are concerned about privacy and the legality of downloading posts. The US Supreme Court and Superior Court have both recently reaffirmed that any data that is publicly available on the internet is legal to use for pretty much any purpose. And this is certainly not a malicious purpose. So as far as I can tell, the law of the land is settled. You're allowed to use stuff that's publicly available on Reddit. And that's, as far as I can tell, that's the end of the conversation. Oh, sorry. One thing that I did forget to mention is the end result is always a JSON-L file. So in this case, here you see the same format. There's a prompt, and then there is a completion. Now in this case, the demarcator is reduce suffering. Let me zoom back in. Let's see, reduce suffering. Where did it go? Okay, reduce suffering. So this tells it what the instruction is. This tells it which core objective function. And then this passage indicates the person has suffered from isolation and feeling trapped. And so this is the training data that you give it, and then you end up with a model that, in this case, abides by my core objective functions. So this first model in natural language cognitive architecture, the question generator, that's for generating questions. This one, the core objective functions, is for reducing suffering, increasing prosperity, and increasing understanding. So that's a very different purpose. You can browse through the data. It's all in here under as a JSON-L file. It actually looks like I didn't finish this experiment because I kind of realized that I needed to go a different direction. But still, generating synthetic data, you can look at each of those steps in here and how I got it all. This is going to be the most comprehensive one, is the core objective functions. And so lastly, I created this, this chatbot. And this one was fully synthetic. I had no raw material. So let me show you how I did this. So there's a prompt. Let me show you this prompt and what it does when you come up into GPT-3. So I say Eve is a digital life coach that uses compassionate listening and is inquisitive about the end user. Eve's goal is to understand the end user and help them untangle life problems. Every response should either ask a probing question, so there's that term, probing question, provide a definitive information, or make a concrete suggestion. So convo. So this was one, I actually had, there was another prompt. What was it? Synthetic prompt. That's what it was. So this is, so there's several prompts. This one I actually realized was better. So let me actually show you this one, because this allows it to synthesize. All I did was come up with a list of topics. So let me show you that list of topics. So what I did was, and all the scripts are here. Actually, this repo is not public, so you can't see this one. But yeah, so I came up with a list of topics, and then I fed it into this prompt. And let me show you how effective this is. So navigating office politics. So navigating office politics. So all you do is just start here, and the conversation starts with someone saying, "Hey Eve, let me turn the temperature back down to 0.7, and watch what this does." Oh, whoops, I need to remove those. We don't want it to stop here. Of course, what's going on? User, well, there's blah, blah, blah. And so you see, it's imagining an entire conversation entirely on its own. All I did was give it, say, this is what the prompt is. Imagine a long text message chat between a life coach and a user. The life coach is Eve, who uses compassionate listening to help her client succeed in life. Eve frequently offers ideas and suggestions or teaches her client helpful facts. Eve maintains a professional tone. The topic of the following conversation is navigating office politics. Okay, so you see there's one synthetic conversation right there. All I did was tell it what to do, and it generated the entire thing. The topic of this next one, let's say quantum physics, just to show that this prompt is infinitely flexible. What do you know about quantum physics? And then of course it gave up. User, let's say absolutely nothing. I'm an idiot. Don't say that about yourself. You're not an idiot. You're just new to the topic. And so look, she says, let's start with the basics. Quantum physics is the study of behavior and matter at the subatomic levels. Okay, that makes sense. How can quantum physics help me in everyday life? Yeah, so there you have it. Like you just swap this out with any topic. Let's say, I'm not going to choose something controversial. Let's see. Oh, here, doing taxes. This is something that we all just recently had to do. It can be really tough to get started on taxes. And then she makes a list, et cetera, et cetera. There you have it. Yeah. So these are some of my tips for making synthetic data. This repo was never meant to be public, but the fine-tuning set that resulted from it is publicly available. It's under here, my GPT-3 fine-tunes under Compassionate Chatbot. Here's the data right here. I do also have the synthetic prompt and the topics. So all that you need here is available under Compassionate Chatbot. And I've even got the script to synthesize the conversations so that you just look at the topics and it'll synthesize all kinds of conversations for you. So there you have it. There is my tutorial on generating synthetic training data with GPT-3 and for fine tuning. Have a good one. Thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe if you found this helpful.